Hello, welcome to another episode of Film Club. I'm Chris Garner, joined with my co-host Tate in the Hour, and on today's show we'll be reviewing the 2000 Japanese action thriller Kinji Fukasaku's Battle Royale. For anyone new to the channel, how Film Club works is that each week we take it in turns nominating a film at the end of our main show, which ties in with whatever we reviewed for that particular show. So this week was our trilogy review on The Hunger Games, and it was my choice to pick a film. So Battle Royale was a film that I'd heard about loads, never got around to watching, but I was aware of the comparisons and the similarities between that and The Hunger Games. I don't know if it got into controversy where The Hunger Games was blamed for plagiarism on the initial idea, so I wanted to sort of go off that link, and I chose this film, so that's the one we're going to be talking about today. So before we get into the review, we always sort of tend to start off this way, but thoughts before going in. So Tate, I know that you saw this film quite a while ago, I think, didn't you? So do you want to give your thoughts on that, sort of your ideas and thoughts before going to see that when you watched it the first time?
So I saw this film about 4 years ago, and
Right.
it was because my friend was like, he was trying to get me into anime, he was trying to get me into all of this, like, all these different shows and stuff like that, and I was like, look, I like anime, it's okay, I can get along with it, some are good, some are bad, they're a bit outlandish for me.
Yeah, we've all got one friend like that, haven't we? I think everyone has.
And I just said to him, look, do you have like a Japanese film that I can just watch, like a good Japanese action film or something like that?
Yeah.
And he was like, hey, watch this, it's okay. And I was like, okay, that's fine, I'll watch it. And he's like, Battle Royale. And I'd heard Battle Royale being mentioned before. I was like, oh, okay. If another person's recommending it for me to watch, then I must watch it. I watched it, and I think at the time, after watching it, I looked at the date of the film, and the first reaction that I came up with was, oh my god, this is like a Hunger Games clone, or the Hunger Games has cloned itself off this.
Yeah.
And, like, because my sister had said she's been reading the books before any of the films came out. My sister had been talking about it, and I was like, those two are extremely similar. Something's going on here, and that's basically how it started.
I mean, yeah, that's sort of different for me is that, as I said, like, I haven't seen this film before, but I was sort of aware of it from all of the comparisons that came out about the Hunger Games. And I mean, this is spoiler free, so I'm not going to spoil anything massive, but the opening scene of this film is where you've got a victor from the previous games, and like you've got the media swarming around with cameras and saying like, the victor's a girl from the last games, she's the survivor. And I was like, wow, oh my god, this pretty much is Hunger Games, isn't it?
Yeah.
The only difference I would say between the two is that Hunger Games goes more of the angle of the whole reality TV celebrity culture thing, creating an identity for yourself and playing the politics of the media, and I think it might go into a bit more depth in the whole political stance of it all and everything like that, whereas this seems to be pretty much just focused on the games, doesn't it? We only get sort of brief sort of asides to the political state and the rules that are passed. I think, if I remember rightly, the film itself opens with like a text like crawl just telling you, like, laying out the setting at the start of the film.
Yeah, in fact, I'll just say what the plot is here. This doesn't really spoil anything, but in the future, the Japanese government captures a class of 9th grade students and forces them to kill each other under Revolutionary Battle Royale Act. And that's basically the plot.
That is pretty much the plot. It doesn't give a date, does it? I think it's meant to be set in the not too distant future. I was going to say, like, in the far off future of 1999. But no, like, I sort of read very briefly before we hit record, like, the sort of development of this film and the idea and how it came about. It was based on a 1999 novel, and it was clearly a passion project for the director himself. He's spoken out saying that the story reminded him and took him back to his times of working in a munitions factory when he was 15 years old, and sort of it got bombed, and the surviving children, the workers there, had to sift through the bodies and dig them out and stuff. And when he found out that the government was lying about World War II, he sort of developed this immense hatred for adults, and you
That's
can
a
sort
story
of
in
see that
itself there.
that's he's probably got a more tragic backstory than like most of the characters in this film, and these characters have really sad backstories, and that's one of the things I want to talk about in this film as well. Is that my problems that I had with Hunger Games, in that you really know Katniss, Peter, and that's pretty much it. Like, you never get insight into anyone else. This film does an immense job of practically giving every single character some sort of backstory or stake in the story. Like, each one gets a flashback, or they talk amongst themselves about what happened. You've got sort of like cliques forming between friendship groups, and then you've got lone wolves that are just going out there, just like going through all the students, killing them all. But I really like that about it. I think every single person got, you know, an identity, and so many of the characters, and it's a huge cast as well. I mean, that bit at the start where the video players sort of like calling them out one by one, and they grab their packs and their camping equipment and run out. It's a huge cast because it's an entire class full of characters, but so many of them are just memorable, and I think that's one of the film's strengths.
42 people in the battle royale.
Yeah.
42 people fighting to kill each other, and like every single like time somebody or a couple of like people die, they put up on screen, even if it's a minor character. And I think they do go through all 42 people, and they say people killed contestant number 24 male or 24 female or 5 or whatever, because they're all matched. So male 1, female 1, male 2, female 2, they all get sent off one by one. So they actually show you up on the screen who's died, so you are able to actually keep track. I know that that's something they did in the Hunger Games, where they stuck them up on the massive screen, but with this one, it's like an actual text scroll. Like, you can see who goes.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that as well. Like, that's a great point you made up there, the comparison between Hunger Games. That is very similar, isn't it? Where, I mean, in Battle Royale, you get the teacher who has the megaphone and screams out at the end of every single day who's died during that particular day. Because I think it's, if I remember rightly, it's a 3-day games.
Yeah.
And basically all the students are fitted with, this is slightly different to Hunger Games, each one's fitted with a collar which serves as a tracker, a microphone, and also that it will detonate if they try and escape, or at the end of the 3 days, if there's not an all-out winner, all the collars will go off and they'll basically just all be killed. So that adds to the stakes, I think, of trying to get and become the victor of the games. But no, that is very similar, and in Hunger Games it's done in a way where, because they're in a big dome, it sort of projects on the screen at the end. But I thought that the way they handled it in this was, because it's a lot less sci-fi than Hunger Games, I would say, with the whole, like, it does away with the whole dome and everything like that. I think it added to the sort of realism of the situation. Like, you've just got one guy just shouting on a megaphone each day. It's really sort of macabre and, you know, really brutal. I mean, the bit where it starts off and the kids are in the class initially before anything happens in the film, and they're laying down all the rules of the film, the rules of the game, sorry, it's really brutal, and, you know, people are getting picked off, and you do get that sense of emotion from all the kids. They really don't want to be there, and they are distraught that they're having to do this.
Like, I don't think any of the characters, I think there's maybe 1 or 2 characters who are like, okay, I am going to do absolutely everything to survive. I am going solo. If anyone even tries to come near me, I'm killing them, and stuff like that. Whilst almost all of the other characters are always in 2 minds. Now, in the Hunger Games, you don't see that. You have a clear divide. I am going to kill that person, or I'm going to let that person live for now. And maybe let somebody else kill them, so that I don't have to do that. Everyone is either, like, I mean, in this film, I know they don't do it in the Hunger Games, but in this film, there are a couple of suicides, because people just do not want to put themselves through it. And, and it's horrible, isn't it? I mean, you think that the kids in this film are probably like 15 years of, like, the same age that Kinji, the director, said he was when he went through this, like, horrible ordeal as a kid. And it's done in a way where it is so believable, and there is a lot of violence in this movie. Some of it very bloody. I mean, the violence gets to a stage in this film where, like, Quentin Tarantino wishes he could have made this film. I'm surprised he hasn't done like a remake of it, so to speak.
Well, I guess it's because Hunger Games has come out and that's basically took the place. But I mean, you look at the violence in this, and as I said, like, I haven't read the Hunger Games books. I'm assuming that the violence is a lot sort of closer to what it is in this film.
Maybe, yeah.
I know they did an unseen version of Hunger Games, but I think it was only literally a matter of seconds longer, so maybe you get a quick flash of blood or something like that. But I do think that the violence does add to the tension of it. It does show like the animalistic sort of state that these students get to when they do want to survive. This might be a spoilers section bit, but I'm just going to sort of avoid it as much as I can. But there's a character in it who's been in the games before, and you know, he's sort of like weathered by it, and you see that it's changed him, like mentally, and he's sort of he doesn't want to be there. None of the people do, but then you also get students there that do sort of revel in the violence as well. And you've got I think they say he was a transfer student. I don't think he says much in the film. He's got sort of like spiked up hair, and he's just completely batshit insane, like all the way through the movie. And I like that you've got students like that. Some sort of don't want to fight at all and like try and create a home for themselves, just the friends. You've got some that are going out on their own. You've got some people that have never been in a fight before, the sort of more like nerdy academic kids who are like picking up a gun and firing it awkwardly and everything like that. And I love that there's so many different like aspects to the characters in this. And as I said, I think that's a strength of the film that Hunger Games doesn't have, in that you get a sense of all these different characters and personalities. And I mean, I've come away from this film, and true, I might not be able to remember all the characters' names, but I remember their personalities, and
Yes.
I think that goes a long way with it.
Whilst with Hunger Games, I'm not gonna lie, throughout all three films, I feel nothing for half of the characters, if not almost all of them. Like,
Yeah,
Katniss, yeah, she may be the hero, but that's only because she's being placed in the position of the hero. If you take that away from her, she is just a person with resting bitch face. I'm not gonna lie.
yeah,
She is a horrible personality. Peter's bland as well. Very wimpy, very whiny. The only characters that I really emphasise with or have any character depth, I'd say, was probably Hamish. Because you can see that he has like a troubled past and he's trying to get through it with his alcoholism. Maybe President Snow, as you can see him kind of working, like you can always see his brain's ticking, but to be honest, with all of these characters, there is a character trait. Like, there is something you'll remember them by. Whether it's a flashback scene to before the Royale started, whether it's what happened when they first found out that the Royale was, like, about to happen, or what happens when they're actually confronted with a situation of actual danger, whether their life's at stake or somebody else's.
Yeah, and like you brought up Hamish there, about that he's been in the games before and turned to alcoholism. Again, another comparison to my favourite character from this film with Shogo Kawada, who's pretty much the same. There's a scene in this where he's drinking from a hip flask and he's trying to like take the pain away and the memories of the game. So there definitely is the similarities there. I don't know if it's a complete copy of it, but it is very similar in its themes. But with the violence as well, I mean, as I said, there is a whole lot of violence done in very creative ways, and I mean, each kid, when they run out at the start, they get a pack, and each one contains a weapon ranging in usefulness.
It's like potluck. So you could end up with a sword, you could end up with some binoculars, you could end up with like a GPS tracker, or you could end up with like a freaking machine gun.
Yeah, and I think they say something like it can range from a machine gun to like a paper fan, or something like that. It is literally just so... I mean, I feel sorry for whoever got that pack, but I mean, that's a difference from Hunger Games in itself, because in Hunger Games, all they have is basically the land. Like, they have to teach themselves how to hunt, how to track, how to, you know, camp and everything like that, whereas this, they sort of get handed everything.
Yeah, like a TV show, in the Hunger Games, they do have, like, the donators, and, like, they get, like care drops and stuff like that. Whilst in this, it is literally, if you manage to kill someone, you pick up what they've got, otherwise somebody else will have that.
Yeah.
Like, no matter how useless it is, even if it's like a pair of binoculars or something like that, you're going to pick it up because you're not going to give somebody else that advantage.
Yeah, and I mean, you get people in this where they'll kill someone, pick up their weapons, and they're just absolutely strapped like Neo from the Matrix, just every single weapon. That's like me in any sort of... I mean, you were talking about the new Fallout game that came out just before we hit record. That'd be like me, just straight up over encumbered. I will be picking up everything. Even if it's... I will pick up the paper fan, because I'll be like, you know what? Maybe I can throw this on a fire and get a fire going with it, perhaps.
Do you know what? In Fallout, my index finger is already aching because of the amount of times I pressed E. which is pick up item.
Oh, that's literally me. Like any like Elder Scrolls game, like fantasy game, I will pick up everything. um, I'm trying to think if there's anything else we can really talk. I guess we can talk about some of the characters in it a little bit before we move into spoilers. So your main two characters, you've got a boy and a girl. You've got Shuya and you've got Noriko, and he's sort of like your typical nice boy. He's got a crush on this girl, and he's trying to keep her safe throughout the whole games and like protect her. I think his friend at the start of the film, who doesn't make it very close to the start of the film, so that's not really a spoiler. His friend also had a crush on her, and then since then it's sort of just him trying to keep her safe away from all these people that are trying to kill them. But he's also aware of the idea that there's got to be one winner, and that's sort of where the other main character comes into it, of Shogo, who had been in the games before with his girlfriend, and then sadly he had to kill her.
Well, she attempted. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. Yeah.
No, this is getting all. No. Okay.
No.
But
Okay. We're roaming way too close to spoiler territory.
Yes, we are. I didn't realise I'd delve that close to it. But you've got Shogo, who's been in the games before, in a similar situation to the main characters, and it's sort of like as those three meet up and sort of talk and like go through the games themselves. And honestly, I thought that the actors they got for the leads were really strong.
Yeah,
like
I think some of them were even like debut actors and stuff like that. I know that one of them, I think it was a person who played, best new actor for the main character of Shoya.
Yeah, and he definitely deserves that because he plays like the emotional scenes very well, and even at the start when they get sort of like thrown into this, and like people are getting killed in the classroom by the teacher and everything like that, you do believe that this is almost like really happening, like how naturalistic he plays it. And I think that was the direction that the director gave. I think he just said to everyone, just be yourself, which concerns me a little bit with like the guy with the spiked up hair and the girl who plays Gogo in Kill Bill 1, but I think it works, and I do think that everyone does sort of fit into the roles perfectly. There's never any bits where I sort of like cringed my face and went like, oh, that doesn't seem naturalistic. There were a few death scenes in it that were a bit hammy, like it was the typical almost like Shakespearean death, like head lolling to the side, tongue lolling out, like Marion Cotillard playing Talia al Ghul in the end of Dark Knight Rises. But no, I thought all the characters were really likeable, and as I said, had an identity, which is a big part of it. You've also got the teacher in it, who I believe, I'm trying to find his name now. I think it's Noriko. No, it's not Noriko. That's the girl. I don't know. Kitano. That's it. Kitano plays the teacher, and he's just fucking horrible in this movie. He's just like, we do get like insight into his backstory, which I won't say here, and there is quite a bit of depth to him towards the end. But man, this guy is a dick. Like, he's putting these kids through this.
Not only that, but it's like he doesn't. He's like, the way he acts, he's done this 1,000 times.
Oh yeah,
you can tell because he doesn't even care anymore. He's like, shut up and watch the goddamn video. He's like, and like people are like, just don't. He almost looks like he's got a headache through those scenes because he's had people shouting and screaming at him before and before. And it does get to the point where he's just like, yeah, I've had enough of this, and starts killing people because they won't shut up, because he's obviously gone through this so many times, seen the same introductory videos so many times, that he's just like, do you know what, I can't be asked. You know when you have one of those days where you just can't be asked?
Yeah.
That's what he's going through right now.
Yeah, he's literally like the more extreme version of the principal from The Breakfast Club. Like, if those kids have got any more like unruly, he would have just like thrown a knife into someone's forehead or something. But yeah, I mean, he plays it in a really detached way as well. As you said, like, he's done this 1,000 times. I think they even say, like, they scream at him like, why are you doing this? And he goes, or like, why us? And he says like, oh, you were picked out of a lottery we have every year. You know, your class just came up, get on with it. It's just like a job to him, really, like him and like all the army and everything like that. But I guess we'll go into recommendations now, because I did rather drift very, very closely to spoilers there. So I think before we talk about anything else, we should probably just go straight into that. So recommendation, would you recommend Battle Royale?
Yes, I would. I would recommend it over the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
I would say that this film was very well put together. I know that it's in Japanese, and I know people have a problem with that, but the subtitles are understandable. Mm-hmm. If you want to learn Japanese and watch this film, then go ahead. You can do that if you want. I wouldn't suggest that. That might take a while to understand it. But yeah, it's a very good film, very good characters, very memorable. I love watching it a couple of times, and I feel like it has a better rewatchability factor than The Hunger Games. Because once you've seen The Hunger Games, it's the same story over and over, whilst you may pick up different things every single time when you watch this film.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll sort of just copy your point, basically. I would definitely recommend this. As you said, as it's Japanese, don't let that put you off, because there are so many great films out there in other languages, and people just tend to be put off with it, whether it's subtitle or whatever. It's
Films
like,
such
oh
as
no,
The Raid and The Raid 2.
yeah, fantastic films, and it's just like, oh, I've got to read. Why? And it's just like, no, you are missing out so much. So yeah, I would definitely recommend this film. Be warned though, it is very gory, so
Very
if
violent.
gore isn't your kind of thing, or violence or anything like that, I would probably give this one a miss. There are times where it does seem to revel in the violence a little bit, which I don't have a problem with film violence at all. Like Tarantino
If
says,
it's
it's
deserved, then it's
Yeah.
okay. But if it's going possibly out of its way to do it, I feel like this film deserved it because the plot set it up so that it would have
Yeah.
to be this violent. While some horror films like, what was this film I saw ages
Hostel.
ago? Hostel, or where it really isn't deserved because you could go like a less gory and have the
Yeah.
same effect.
like with films like that, like the horror films that just rely on gore, it's literally just done for shock value. Whereas
But
this
this
it
is not
plays
a horror
into the
film.
story.
No, this is not
No.
a horror film.
No, this is just like an action thriller film, and it's like sort of Tarantino violence. It's almost like a form of escapism, and it's almost video gamey sometimes as well, like the violence in it, I
Yeah.
would say. But it's also backed up with great characters, really, really good concept that's fun to see played out on screen, and yeah, I would definitely just recommend watching it if you like those sort of Tarantino films. I think this is definitely one to watch, because I'm sure that Tarantino saw this film and
I'm pretty sure
took
that
a lot of influence out of it.
The person who wrote the Hunger Games books probably saw this film
Oh god,
for
yeah,
some
yeah. It was like
inspiration.
they watched they had a double feature of Twilight and Battle Royale in the same day, and was like, do you know what? and then Epiphany was born, and thus gave us the Hunger Games. But yeah, no, definitely see Battle Royale. It's a good little film as well. I'm just checking the budget now. 4.5 mil budget, relatively small. Great practical effects though. I think there is, in the version I watched, because there are two versions of this. There's an original version, and then there's a slightly extended cut as well. I think the extended cut does have a little bit of CGI blood in there that may have been a bit superfluous, I think, because it does do a good job of sort of like practical gore effects
Yeah.
as well. But it's relatively quick, and it doesn't sort of mar the film too much, because I really just hate CGI blood. I think it's pointless. But no, check it out. I haven't seen the sequel. I know there is a sequel to it. I know that the director started filming of it, but sadly he died after only filming one scene, and his son took it up. But it's one I'd quite like to check out and see how the story unfolds. But now we're going to move into the spoiler section. Just briefly go over this. So,
Spoilers, yeah.
spoilers. I guess we could talk about favourite scenes if you want, or more so sort of move from favourite scenes into problems that we had with the film, if any. So if you want to kick off.
Well, my personal favourite scene was probably the people trying to hack the terminal. Like, they went out proper guns blazing, didn't they?
Yeah.
I mean, they spent the entire movie thinking, we're going to escape, we're going to escape, we're going to escape, because we have all this technology which we can use to basically get the machines around their necks off them, so that if they did try and escape and take them off, like, they'd be able to just, like, run, maybe swim for it, or contact mainland or something like that. But the guy with the spiked hair, I would say possibly the other main villain in this film, other than the teacher, just comes in and completely just he just rolls past them, doesn't he? He guns
Yeah.
two of them down, and then one of the other guys tries to take him with him and does injure him slightly by blowing up a truck filled with propane, which he was going to launch into the school to end the game. So, to be honest, they had a noble cause. They were going to end the game for everyone. Whilst the guy with the spiked hair was in it for himself, he was thinking there's no way that they can take him down. He probably didn't even know what was going on. and he basically exploded up the massive truck of propane, and that set up the final kind of showdown, which I quite liked.
Yeah. Yeah, and the only thing that I sort of lost track of a bit with that whole subplot about hacking the terminal is that the leader of the group basically finds out that there's a microphone in the trackers they've got around their necks and the collars, and he sort of like types on a computer to tell the rest of the guys to go and get materials like to make an explosive, I guess. And then that's sort of like ditched in their next scene because basically he's just telling them what he needs and they're replying to him. And I was thinking like, oh shit, they're like talking about the plan. Like the teacher's going to hear them.
Yeah.
Like I thought he was going to type to them everything. So I thought that was a bit inconsistent. But then I saw in one scene he sort of covers the microphone on his collar, I guess. So I guess they got around it that way. But no, and I love that. And we talked about that spiked haired guy who's just fucking insane. That's that awesome bit at the end where he gets caught in the explosion and it blinds him and he's still just like blindly firing everywhere with the machine gun was awesome.
Yeah.
If I'm going to go for my favourite scene, I think my favourite sort of character moment in the film was the scene I was talking about earlier where you've got the three leads holed up in the house and the guy's drinking from the hip flask and he's talking about his past and everything like that. I really enjoyed those moments, and the film does a good job of that where you'll get the high octane violence and it'll be really fun and exhilarating, but then it'll balance it with some more, you know, calmer character driven moments.
I have to say that moment was the darkest moment in this film. The moment where he was saying like I was in the games before, my girlfriend and I were the last two survivors. We thought we were going to make it. We thought we'd survive, and then the 3 days were up, so their collars started bleeping. So they realised that one of them had to die, and she shoots him, like in the lower abdomen, and he shoots her back, and she doesn't make it. Her heart stops before his, and he survives. I think that's how it went. Was it?
Yeah, and I think like as she was dying, she smiled and said thank you, and he was like, he's trying to figure out what was behind her smile the whole time or something like that. But
that's the reason why he's back in the games. He's just saying, yeah, I'm back here because I want to find out why she was smiling and what the thank you meant.
Yeah,
and
he's got that cool sort of like scarf thing over his face, and I didn't even think anything of it at the time. I thought it was just like a cool fashion accessory he had, and then he takes it off and he's got like this huge scar across his eye, and he says like he was in the games. I was like, okay, this is awesome. And then right after that, the guy we mentioned, the insane one, like cuts someone's head off, puts a grenade in their mouth and throws it through the window. I was like, that's awesome. But if I'm going with my favourite like individual scene besides that, and the one to me that felt the most Tarantino-like was the scene where the main character's injured and he's been taken to the lighthouse and he's resting up. Yes. And in there you've got like the group of girls.
Is there 5 of them?
Yeah, something like that. And one of them saw the main character kill one of her best friends. And it was an accident, to be fair. It was self-defense, and I think he did sort of like... Did he fall onto the axe or something? It's very clever how they did that, because even as a viewer, you're not sure whether the main character directly killed him or if he was just like an unfortunate accident. But she wants to kill the main character for killing her friend. And, you know, they're preparing food. They don't want to fight amongst each other. They want to just sort of like wait it out and see what happens. She poisons a plate of... I think they've got like... Is it like noodles or something like that they're all eating? She poisons that. And then, unfortunately, one of the girls eats it, and it's horrible as hell. Like when she like coughs up blood and she's like choking, and then that to me is literally like something from Inglourious Basterds or something, where they all turn on one another.
Yeah.
And it's like a Mexican standoff between them all. They've all got weapons pointed at everyone.
Like,
they're all screaming, blaming everyone. It's amazing, and I think that to me that was the most sort of like Tarantino-like scene out of the entire film.
And like I found it at the start, I was like, oh my god, who poisoned who? And that's the first mystery. The second mystery is, why was that person poisoned? And then it was who, like, if that wasn't the person intended, then who was the person intended? And it all came together at the end where everyone started shooting each other. And then the girl goes up to see Shoya and says, I'm sorry, what have I done? And then you realise that she was the person who poisoned, but somebody accidentally ate the food instead.
Yeah. And then she proceeds to commit suicide after she realised what she's done. And it happened so quick, but it was amazing to see that change in the characters. Like they're all like playing house, like they're all happy and
Yeah.
everything like that, and then in an instant
All
they all
changes,
snap.
and that was brilliant. The
And
only
what
other...
that scene would... Oh, go on, sorry.
No, you go first. Yeah.
I was just going to say, and what that scene does as well, and it's probably one of the reasons I love John Carpenter's The Thing so much, it was that paranoia, like not knowing who to trust.
Yes.
And
No,
I love that
agree.
aspect of this film, and that's progressively all through the entire film.
The only other real spoiler moment that we can really talk about is the ending.
Yeah. And to be honest, that's where my problem with this movie kicks in.
Yeah.
I think the initial intro, the entire games, was flawless, and it was building up to a really good ending. And then the ending hits, and I don't know. To me, it just sort of the film ends on a real whimper. Like it's quite bizarre. Like they they get to the teacher. All three of them. He thinks there's only one survivor, but then all three show up and like corner him. He approaches the girl with a gun. It turns out to be a water pistol, and they shoot him dead, and he falls on the ground. And then, really out of nowhere, he just sort of stands up, brushes it off, sits on a sofa, picks up a phone, and then dies again. And it was really weird. Like, I thought, was he wearing a bulletproof vest? Was he faking dying, and it was all a ruse? But I don't know. I think he was on the phone to his daughter, wasn't he? Because he says something earlier in the film where he's got like an estranged relationship with his daughter and everything like that. And then I think he like calls her on the phone. I'm reading the synopsis here. He picks up the phone, reprimands his daughter, rebukes his daughter, and then dies. And that to me, I was like, what? And then it ends where Shogu dies on the boat, which we expected him to because he gets hit with a bullet. And then they just end up in a city, and the two main characters are wanted fugitives on the run. And they just sort of like run into the distance, and that ending just really came out of nowhere for me. It felt really rushed, and to be honest, it didn't really end it on any sort of note that tied in with the rest of the film. At least to me. I don't know what your thoughts are on it.
It completely dropped the kind of pace and anticipation that it was leading up to. I don't have a major problem with it because the ending, apart from dying, then finishing off a phone call, then dying again, the rest of it made reasonable sense within the movie and the whole pursuit for revenge and stuff like that. But I feel like maybe they could have ended it... I don't know whether they could have ended it in the unknown, where maybe after like they kill him, all their colours start bleeping, and that would have been a good end. If they were still on the island, and suddenly their colours started bleeping, and all three of them look at each other, and then it cuts to black. That would have been good. That would have been really good.
And I'm trying to think back to it, because I think we watched the same version. I think we both watched the extended version, where you get sort of weird flashbacks to it from certain characters. And we get something of the teacher where he's walking with what I thought was the main girl character, Noriko. But I'm not sure if that was meant to be his daughter.
Well, at the end he says, as a daughter, can you kill a father? Like,
so maybe he saw Noriko
as
in the same light as he did his daughter.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that's what they were trying to get there.
Because she was the only one turning up to class, wasn't she? And seemed to care about it. And he didn't have a great relationship with his daughter, so maybe he saw of her as a daughter figure. I don't know, but yeah, to me, if I was going to give a problem, it would be like the last 10 minutes or so. I thought it just didn't click with me like the rest of the film did. And that's not to say the film's bad, because before that, the entire film is great. Like, I loved it.
Amazing.
I don't know whether I would have preferred an ending similar to how it started off, where you've got the survivor, and they're sort of just completely broken by the experience they've just gone through, and you've got the media there and everything like that. I think that may have been a nice bookend to the film. I don't know, but then the whole thing where they're fugitives, that just came right out of nowhere to me. So that would probably be really the only problem I had with this film.
Do you know what? Something that I have just looked up. In 2009, Quentin Tarantino listed Battle Royale as his favourite film released since he began directing in 1992.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
So,
I could totally see that. Yeah. And I mean, Kill Bill 3 came out, I want to say the first one came out 2003, and then Kill Bill 2 came out 2004, I think.
I think so.
I'm going to check that, because I'm not sure. But yeah, you can totally see, as I said earlier, like the similarities. Yeah, 2003, the first one came out, and 2004 for Kill Bill 2. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me in the slightest, to be honest, because
No.
it does seem almost like one of his films, and you could tell he took the influence from this film and integrated into many of his other films. But yeah, for spoilers, I think that pretty much covers it for me. Unless you want to talk about something else, very briefly, I could say that the soundtrack's awesome, and the film starts off with I'm going to find the song here. I know it's called Requiem. Giuseppe Verdi's Requiem, yeah. And I love that song as well, and it gave it a really epic feel. And Tarantino used that song in Django Unchained as well. So there's another similarity. But
one final note. Oh,
thoughts?
sorry. Can I just have a final note before
sure.
the final thoughts? In 2012, they up until that point they were thinking of making almost like a remake of Battle Royale for American audiences. But it was scrapped because, as quoted, audiences would not want to see a copy of the games. Most of them would not know that Battle Royale came first. It's unfair, but that's reality. However, he stated he might return to the film in 10 years' time to develop a Battle Royale movie for future generations.
I think we'll probably definitely get another one at some point. As I said, I don't think the time's right now. I think they need to wait till the whole Hunger Games buzz dies down.
Yeah.
Probably in 10 years I could definitely see it.
It's just like nobody put out a film about wizards or anything whilst Harry Potter was on because they just could not compete. Which is a shame even if somebody's idea was actually quite good.
Yeah, and I remember growing up as well, even because Lord of the Rings went through a period where it was sort of coming out alongside Harry Potter, and there was always that feud between the two, which one you preferred, because they're both fantasy, they both got wizards in and magic. So yeah, I definitely think you would have that clash between the two. But do we need a remake to this? Probably not, because I think it's it stands on its own. If we did get sort of a Western, well, not like a Western, but like a Western cultured version of this, I think that they'd probably want to try and make it bigger, more flashy, more traps and everything like that, pretty much like the Hunger Games, which I don't know if it would work as well, because I think this feels more self-contained because of the budget and stuff, and that it was a passion project and the effects and everything like that. I mean, I would see a remake, but I don't think it needs one, to be honest. No. So if I'm just going to go into my final thoughts, I'll just echo what I said. Really, really enjoyed the film. I think it definitely is rewatchable, like you said earlier, probably more so than the Hunger Games. The only problem I have with is the ending, really, and I do think the ending really lets it down, because I think if it had gone a different direction with it, it would have been just a perfect, can't fault it, fantastic film. But as such, I have to sort of mar the ending, and I do think it sort of ends the film on a real whimper. You want it to go out on a high note, end perfectly, tie everything back up, but unfortunately I think it sort of falls short just at the ending. But if you take that out of the equation and you just look at the film for its merits up to that point, I think it's brilliant and a definite watch.
My final thoughts are, people, do not just watch Hollywood films. Sometimes gain a little bit of cultural experience, watch some films which came before it and are better. Better at conveying across messages. They don't have any of these soppy love triangles. I know that's what attracts audiences nowadays, but I would love to see this film getting some more recognition over films like The Hunger Games, because The Hunger Games is, everyone's talking about it right now, other than Star Wars. This is the only film that I hear about nowadays, outside of Star Wars and Oscar season. And this film came out a long time before then, but nobody remembers it.
No.
People don't even know it exists. People think, oh my god, Hunger Games, what an original idea, how amazing. And I can't remember who said it or quoted it, but no idea is original. Some idea's got to come from somewhere. And I feel like this may have been one of the first, of that kind of movie. And yet it's getting no recognition.
And I think it is important to watch films like this and sort of see where ideas have come from and how films have developed or been influenced by it, or in some cases downright plagiarised it. But no, I do think it is important to go back to these films. And as I said, don't turn your nose up at any foreign films, Japanese films, whatever, just because there's subtitles, because there are so many great ones out there. Most of them, to be honest, better than most of the stuff we get here. Just generally in the cinema. So I think they are definitely worth watching, but I know that a great many people sort of turn their nose up at it because they've got to read a few subtitles.
And the thing
film.
is, this film came out 15 years ago. In fact, it will come out, like, it will be, its release date will be 15 years ago, the day that the new Star Wars gets released. And I know that, like, a lot of people, like, celebrate, I mean, recently we had, like, the Back to the Future Day. I know that was a more extreme case of, like, a special edition. But, like, it's going to be, like, 15 years. Most films will have some kind of celebration for that, whilst this will be completely overshadowed. Please, when you go to see the new Star Wars film, think of Battle Royale. Maybe for, like, half a second.
Let's have a moment of silence for the remembrance of Battle Royale. But no, I think I basically said everything I can on this movie. I think you have too, right? Yep. Okay, so that was our review on Battle Royale. See it, basically. And support more films like this. So be sure to rate, like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you think of Battle Royale. You can follow us at facebook.com/cinemasavvy. We're on Twitter at cinema_savvy, and we're also at letterboxd.letterbox.com/cinema_savvy as well. So get involved with the channel. We'll be bringing you loads more reviews and reactions in the future. Our main show next week is Steve Jobs. We did go through a period where we thought we wouldn't be able to review that because we've heard that I can't remember the exact total.
It's being cut by 2,000 or 4,000 cinemas. It's being cut from.
Yeah. I think it's only made 16.3 million so far in its initial release, so that's probably why they think it's not worth putting in the extra money to keep it in theatres.
Hey, when we go see it, that's better for us because we're going to go see it in an empty cinema.
Oh, definitely, yeah. But I've heard it's been getting good reviews, so I am looking forward to that one. So that will be our review. We should be up like Monday or Tuesday, sometime like that, and yeah. And then it'll be whatever you recommend from that, Tate, for Film Club next week. So, yep, that'll do it for our review, and thanks very much for listening.